Imagine this. You wake up in the morning, and before your eyes even adjust to the light, your hand is already reaching for your phone. Not to check the time, not to silence an alarm, but because your brain demands it. A dull, gnawing hunger pulls you toward the screen, a reflex as automatic as breathing. You scroll, swipe, tap, dopamine spiking in tiny, unsatisfying bursts, until 10 minutes later, you realize you've absorbed nothing, just noise, just fragments of other people's lives, advertisements, headlines designed to hijack your attention. And then comes the unsettling thought. This isn't just a habit. This is a rewiring. You put the phone down, but the damage is already done. Your brain has been trained, not by you, but by forces you barely understand, to crave distraction, to fragment your focus, to mistake stimulation for meaning. The most disturbing part, you know this. You've read the articles, heard the warnings, yet here you are again, trapped in the same cycle. Why? Because technology isn't just a tool, it's a conditioner, a silent architect reshaping your mind, your desires, even your perception of time. The average person checks their phone 58 times a day. Some studies suggest we touch our screens over 2,600 times daily. These aren't just numbers, they're evidence of a quiet coup. Your brain, the most complex organic machine in the known universe, is being hacked by algorithms designed to exploit its vulnerabilities. And the greatest paradox? You willingly participate. You delete social media only to reinstall it days later. You swear off endless scrolling only to find yourself lost in another rabbit hole. You know it's eroding your attention span, your patience, your ability to sit with your own thoughts. Yet you return, like a prisoner who's grown fond of their chains. What if the real question isn't, how do I stop? But why can't I? What if the struggle isn't about willpower, but about something far deeper? Something neurological, psychological, even philosophical. Centuries ago, Arthur Schopenhauer wrote, "Man can do what he wills, but he cannot will what he wills." In other words, you can choose your actions, but you can't always choose your desires. And right now, your desires are being engineered by Silicon Valley, by behavioral psychologists, by an attention economy that profits from your inability to look away. But this isn't just about distraction. It's about identity. Who are you when your thoughts are constantly interrupted? When your memory is outsourced to Google? When your emotions are dictated by likes and shares? Friedrich Nietzsche warned of the herd mentality, the danger of losing oneself in the crowd. But what happens when the crowd is digital, omnipresent, and algorithmically designed to keep you addicted? You tell yourself you're in control, that you could quit any time. But could you? Really? The truth is, your brain is no longer entirely yours. It's been colonized, reshaped by an environment that rewards impulsivity, punishes depth, and replaces genuine connection with the illusion of it. The scariest part? You might not even notice. Like a frog in slowly boiling water, the changes are gradual, insidious, almost imperceptible, until one day you wake up and realize you don't think the way you used to. You can't focus like you used to. You don't live the way you used to. And the most urgent question of all, what have you lost in the process? This isn't just about screen time. It's about what's happening beneath the surface, the neurological shifts, the psychological toll, the slow erosion of autonomy. It's about whether you're using technology or whether it's using you. And the answer will determine not just your habits, but your mind itself. You tell yourself you're free, that every click, every scroll, every tap is a choice. But what if the very idea of choice is an illusion? Behind the glow of your screen lies a truth far more unsettling. Your brain is not designed for the modern world. For millions of years, evolution shaped the human mind to seek quick rewards, avoid threats, and crave social validation, because these instincts kept us alive. A sudden noise? Your ancestors' brains jolted into focus, preparing them to fight or flee. A sweet fruit found after days of hunger? Dopamine flooded their systems, reinforcing the behavior. A tribe's approval? It meant survival. Now, these ancient mechanisms are being hijacked. Every notification is a potential threat your brain can't ignore. Every like is a tribal validation you're wired to crave. Every infinite scroll is a dopamine slot machine, exploiting your hunger for novelty. The result? A mind perpetually distracted, anxious, and addicted, not because you're weak, but because you're human in an inhuman system. The psychological war for your attention. B.F. Skinner, the father of behavioral psychology, proved something terrifying in the 1950s. Random rewards are the most addictive. If a rat presses a lever and gets food every time, it will only press when hungry. But if the reward comes unpredictably, the rat presses obsessively, unable to stop. Now, replace the rat with you and a lever with your phone. Social media, news feeds, even email, they all use variable reward schedules to keep you hooked. Sometimes a scroll brings a funny meme, sometimes a shocking headline, sometimes nothing. Your brain, desperate for the next hit, keeps you swiping. And the more you do, the more your neural pathways rewire to prioritize distraction over depth. Carl Jung called this the shadow of technology, the unintended consequence of tools that promise connection but deliver fragmentation. He warned of the godlike power of the machine, observing that when humans worship efficiency without wisdom, they become slaves to their own creations. The philosophy of digital enslavement, centuries before smartphones, the French philosopher Blaise Pascal wrote, "All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone." Today, that inability isn't just a personal failing, it's a culturally engineered condition. Aldous Huxley in Brave New World predicted a dystopia where people love their servitude. Unlike Orwell's boot stamping on a human face, Huxley's nightmare was subtler. A society so saturated with pleasure and distraction that no one cared to think deeply, rebel, or even notice they were controlled. Sound familiar? We live in a world where boredom is taboo. The moment stillness creeps in, we reach for stimulation. Depth is punished. Algorithms favor outrage and simplicity over nuance. Presence is extinct. Conversations happen with phones on the table, minds half elsewhere. Jean-Paul Sartre argued that hell is other people. But what if hell is the absence of self, the slow erosion of your ability to be alone with your thoughts, to reflect, to exist outside the digital hive? The neurological betrayal, neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself, is a double-edged sword. It allows learning and adaptation, but also addiction and atrophy. Studies show that heavy internet use shrinks gray matter in regions responsible for focus, empathy, and impulse control, rewires memory systems, making us reliant on Google instead of deep recall, shortens attention spans to the point where even reading a long paragraph feels laborious. Worst of all, you don't notice it happening. Like a lobster in a pot, The water heats so gradually that by the time you realize you're boiling, it's too late. Your brain has already adapted to distraction, mistaking it for normalcy. The deeper tragedy. This isn't just about wasted time, it's about the death of depth. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote, "One must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star." But chaos requires uninterrupted thought, time to wander, to question, to wrestle with ideas. When was the last time you let your mind drift without reaching for a screen? The philosopher Martin Heidegger warned of calculative thinking, a mode of thought reduced to efficiency, speed, and utility. He contrasted it with meditative thinking, deep, contemplative engagement with existence. We are losing the latter, and in its absence, we're left with a hollowed-out consciousness, a mind that knows how to react, but not how to reflect. The turning point. This is where the real question emerges. Is this inevitable? Or is there a way to reclaim your brain, not through superficial digital detoxes, but by understanding the psychological, philosophical, and neurological forces at play? Because once you see the wires, you can start pulling them out. You don't feel your neurons rewiring. You don't notice your attention span fracturing. The changes happen in silence, like termites hollowing out the foundation of a house while the occupants go about their days, oblivious, until the floor finally gives way. This is the paradox of the digital age. The most dangerous effects are the ones you can't see. 1. The death of deep thought. In 2004, neuroscientist Eric Kandel won a Nobel Prize for proving that focus creates physical changes in the brain. When you concentrate deeply, your neurons form robust, lasting connections. But when your attention is fragmented, constantly interrupted by pings, alerts, and infinite scroll, those connections weaken. The result? A brain that can't think deeply even when it wants to. Studies show that after just 5 days of heavy smartphone use, subjects perform worse on cognitive tests. Heavy media multitaskers struggle with memory retention as their brains never fully encode information. The average office worker now switches tasks every 3 minutes, ensuring no thought ever reaches full depth. This isn't just about productivity, it's about the extinction of contemplation, the kind of thinking that births art, philosophy, and scientific breakthroughs. 2. The emotional hollowing human emotions evolved to be rich, complex, and enduring. But in the digital world, they've been flattened into binary reactions: thumbs up, hearts, rage emojis. Dopamine spikes from likes and notifications train your brain to crave shallow validation over real connection. Outrage algorithms amplify anger, making it harder to feel nuance or empathy. The compare and despair effect leaves millions feeling inadequate after endless scrolling through curated highlight reels. The psychologist Sherry Turkle calls this alone together, a world where we're constantly connected yet emotionally starved. 3. The memory crisis. Before smartphones, remembering was an active process. You encoded phone numbers, directions, facts. Now, your brain treats information like a disposable app. Why store it when I can Google it? Studies show that reliance on external memory, phones, cloud storage, weakens our biological recall. The Google effect proves we forget information we believe will be digitally available. Without strong memory, identity itself, phrase, what are you, if not the sum of your experiences and thoughts? 4. The illusion of connection. Social media was supposed to unite us. Instead, it created the loneliest generation in history. Heavy users report higher levels of isolation than those who barely engage. Parasocial relationships, one-sided bonds with influencers, celebrities, replace real friendships. Face-to-face conversation skills atrophy, leaving people anxious in unscripted interactions. The philosopher Byung-Chul Han calls this the burnout society, a world where we're drowning in communication yet dying of thirst for true connection. 5. The loss of agency. The most terrifying consequence, you start to mistake the algorithm's desires for your own. YouTube's autoplay dictates what you want to watch next. Spotify's Discover Weekly defines your musical taste. TikTok's For You page shapes your sense of humor, politics, even attention span. This isn't just customization, it's identity hijacking, the point of no return. These changes aren't hypothetical. They're measurable, neurological, and already reshaping society. Children raised on tablets struggle with fine motor skills from lack of physical play. Teens who grew up on Instagram show unprecedented rates of anxiety and body dysmorphia. Adults who can't disconnect report higher stress, lower creativity, and a pervasive sense of emptiness. But here's the twist. None of this is irreversible. The brain is plastic. It can unlearn as fast as it learns. The question is, do you want to? Because reclaiming your mind will require something far harder than deleting an app. It will demand a philosophical revolt. The first step in any revolution is realizing you've been colonized. You are not weak. You are not broken. You have been designed. Your neural pathways hijacked by forces that profit from your distraction. But just as Pavlov's dogs could be unconditioned, so too can your brain. This is not about balance. This is about rewilding the mind. 1. The radical act of doing nothing. Blaise Pascal was right. The inability to sit quietly is the root of our suffering. But the solution isn't another app or productivity hack. It's the deliberate cultivation of boredom. Start with 5 minutes a day of staring at a wall, hands empty, phone in another room. Notice how your body rebels. The itching need to do something. That's the addiction screaming. Like a muscle atrophied from disuse, your capacity for stillness will regrow. The philosopher Søren Kierkegaard warned that busyness is the mark of an unhappy life. In stillness, you rediscover what your thoughts sound like when they're not being drowned out by the digital chorus. 2. The attention diet. Your brain is what it consumes. Would you feed your body nothing but fast food? Delete the slot machines, uninstall social media apps, use browser versions with friction, go monochrome, set your phone to grayscale. Suddenly, those dopamine-triggering red notifications lose their power. Create tech-free zones. Your bedroom is a temple for sleep and sex, not doom scrolling. This isn't deprivation. This is curating your cognitive environment with the same care you'd give a Zen garden. 3. The 20-minute rule. Neuroscience shows it takes 20 minutes of uninterrupted focus for your brain to enter deep thought. Work in 90-minute blocks with no notifications, no alt-tabbing. Use a physical notebook to capture stray thoughts so your brain trusts it won't lose ideas. When the urge to check your phone arises, pause. That moment of hesitation is where freedom begins. 4. Reclaim your memory. Stop outsourcing your mind to Google, memorize phone numbers again, learn navigation by landmarks before checking GPS. After reading something important, close your eyes and summarize it instead of bookmarking. The Roman philosopher Seneca practiced active recall, testing himself on what he'd learned rather than rereading. This builds cognitive density, making your mind a fortress rather than a way station for information. 5. The analog renaissance. Your hands remember what your mind forgets. Write letters by hand. The slowness forces emotional precision. Cook without recipes. Rebuild your intuition. Use paper maps. Let your spatial reasoning reawaken. As Nietzsche wrote in Twilight of the Idols, one must still have chaos within oneself to give birth to a dancing star. Chaos requires friction, struggle, the messiness of unoptimized living. 6. The social firewall. Not all connections are equal. Text less, call more. Better yet, meet in person. Prune your contacts like a bonsai tree. Keep only those who energize your soul. When with others, put phones in the center of the table. First to touch theirs buys the next round. The existentialist Martin Buber distinguished between I-it relationships, transactional, and I-thou connections, sacred. Digital spaces breed the former. Your rebellion is to demand the latter. 7. The ultimate question. At the end of each day, ask yourself, did my devices serve me today, or did I serve them? This simple litmus test reveals who's in control. The choice before you. This isn't about rejecting technology. It's about reclaiming sovereignty over your attention, the last truly scarce resource in an age of abundance. The French resistance didn't defeat the Nazis by matching their strength. They used asymmetric warfare, sabotage, subversion, playing a different game entirely. Your rebellion looks like reading a book while others scroll, having an original thought instead of parroting hot takes, being bored in line instead of numbing yourself. In a world addicted to stimulation, the most radical act is presence. You've been asking the wrong question. This was never about technology. It was always about you. The grand illusion. We frame this as a battle between humans and machines, willpower and algorithms, attention spans and infinite feeds. But the deeper truth? Technology doesn't rewire your brain. It reveals it. Every time you reflexively reach for your phone during a moment of silence, you're not seeing a new weakness. You're seeing the ancient parts of yourself, the dopamine chaser, the threat seeker, the approval craver that have always been there. The digital age didn't create these impulses. It simply exposed them with brutal clarity. This is what Carl Jung meant when he wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." The mirror in your pocket. Your smartphone is the most honest mirror ever invented. When you can't resist checking notifications during dinner, it shows your fear of missing out. The same instinct that made our ancestors scan the horizon for predators and opportunities. When you obsess over likes, it reveals your tribal hunger for status, unchanged since primates groomed each other for social rank. When you doom scroll instead of sleeping, it reflects your brain's ancient preference for immediate rewards over long-term well-being. The same short-termism that makes us overeat and procrastinate. The screen doesn't distort your nature, it amplifies it. The existential turning point. Here's the revelation that changes everything. You were never fighting your phone. You were fighting human nature. And this is where most self-help advice fails. They tell you to just put it down, as if willpower were the answer. But the Stoics knew better. Epictetus taught that no man is free who is not master of himself. True freedom isn't about resisting temptation. It's about rewriting what tempts you in the first place. The antidote to digital shallows. The solution isn't less technology. It's more humanity. Cultivate depth hunger. Read one great book for a month instead of skimming 30 articles. Have one 3-hour conversation instead of 20 text threads. The mathematician Blaise Pascal noted, "All men's miseries derive from not being able to sit in a quiet room alone." But the inverse is also true. All wisdom begins there. Become boring on purpose. Let your Instagram stories expire. Stop documenting your life and start living it. As Nietzsche proclaimed, the essential thing in heaven and earth is long obedience in the same direction. Reclaim your agency. When you pick up your phone, say aloud what you're about to do. I'm opening Twitter to mindlessly scroll. This simple act of narration, what the Buddhists call mindfulness, breaks the trance. Find your digital Sabbath. One day a week, use technology like it's 1995, calls, maps, and nothing else. Notice how your mind starts weaving narratives, making connections, thinking again. The final truth. After all the strategies and systems, we arrive at the core paradox. The more you try to control your technology use, the more it controls you. The real breakthrough comes when you stop seeing this as a tech problem and start seeing it as a meaning problem. Why do you fear boredom? What are you trying to escape when you scroll? Who would you be if you weren't constantly performing for an audience? The answers to these questions don't live in your settings menu. They live in the quiet spaces between thoughts, the places you've been avoiding, the choice that defines you. In the end, there are only two types of people: those who let their environment shape their brain, those who shape their brain to transcend their environment. The philosopher William James said it best: "The greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another." Your phone isn't the villain in this story. It's the catalyst, the modern-day equivalent of the apple in Eden, offering both knowledge and danger. Will you be exiled from your own attention, or will you finally wake up not just to the dangers of technology, but to the miracle of your own untapped consciousness? The screen is dark now. What appears next is up to you.